My name is Sean Robinson, and I'll be discussing my argument on the inclusion of special education students into the general education setting. Inclusion settings for special education students can present both advantages and disadvantages to accessing grade level content for students. This is something that you want to be mindful of as every student is different and their learning needs are different, whether they're in general education or special education. So you want to be mindful of that when trying to decide what setting is best for what students. Now, the basis of my paper is that I do support inclusion because as a special education teacher, I've seen the benefits that inclusion can have on both general education and special education students. Now, my major claims are that the inclusion of general education is inevitable. The increased academic and social emotional development for special education students. General education students can develop relationships with special education students. The inclusion of special education students in co-teaching settings benefits general education students as well. As I was saying, it benefits both parties because there are two teachers that are available to both general education and special education. Students also get an opportunity to interact with each other, both general ed and special ed, and learn how to respect each other's differences in a respectful manner. Many of my students have good relationships with each other in my ICT classes, and more than likely, special education students and general education students work together in cohesion to solve similar problems, and because they also have similar differences, and hearing things from a student and your peer overall can benefit you as a student in the classroom. This is a slide I wanted to share before I got into my graphic organizer. The benefits of inclusion for students with disabilities extend beyond academics. If you notice, there's a decrease in disciplinary referrals, and there's also increases in likely belonging to a school group, such as a basketball team, sports club, chess club, debate team, things of that nature. More likely to have competitive employment. You see it goes up 11.2%, and more likely to live independently, 10%. I think all of this correlates to being able to interact with general education students as well as be able to handle real world scenarios and get that exposure to those activities. Now, when you look at my graphic organizer, you'll see I have my reasoning, I have my claims, I have my data to support my claims, and I have my thesis statement slash main idea. I also have a concluding argument, which is that you need to be mindful of the selection of the settings because inclusion can benefit some students, but also there are some students that can fall behind in class. There are some students that may have trouble adjusting to the inclusion setting of a larger classroom. There are challenges with social emotional for some students, and general education students may not be able to effectively interact with special education students. Let's say if a student has a certain behavior or a certain disability where there's something that stands out, students may not be used to that, and that can present a challenge as well while making this other student feel uncomfortable. So you want to be mindful of what students you select and how you place them in settings. But overall, I am a supporter of inclusion because I have seen the firsthand benefits, and the data does support that inclusion does help special education students.